Hello and welcome back to the Nutrition Daddy broadcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mitch Kahn, and thanks for joining me again here. Continuation on vitamins and do they really work? Big subject. I could talk a long time about this. I don't want to bore you though, so we're going to get straight into it. Here we go. Let's talk about something that happened about 10 or 12 years ago, and you'll understand why I'm going to talk about this in a second. It was when the FDA decided that, you know what, I don't think we should let people walk into health food stores and grocery stores and pharmacies and buy vitamins. We should regulate them. What we should do is make vitamins by prescription only. That's a great idea. This way you have to go to a medical doctor, get a prescription, and then you can get your vitamins. This was proposed about, I don't remember, it was between 10 and 15 years ago. And naturally the public went nuts. They were like, what? You can't do this. And there was an uproar for several months. A couple of big shot celebrities got involved. So what happened is the FDA finally backed off and they kind of just slowly went away and everything kind of went back to the way it was. It sticks out in my mind, and it was really, sometimes when something happens or you have this thought and it just hangs up in your mind, it just doesn't make sense. Something's just weird and you can't make quite, like, why did that happen? There's something wrong. There's a missing piece. There's some mystery in this, right? Well, as I continued to study and looked into this over the years, what I found out, and I think I mentioned it on another video, I'm not sure, is that 95+% of all the vitamins in this country are made by 2 pharmaceutical companies. So then it began to make sense to me. Okay. So regardless of which direction this situation went, the FDA didn't matter, because the pharmaceutical companies, they were going to make out really well anyway. Okay? Now I want to tell you a little story that I know I haven't mentioned before, and this one blows my mind. This happened a long time, more than 15 years ago. I had a patient come in, an older woman. She was about 80. She had Medicare, all right? And I talked to her about nutrition, told her what I do, and she's like, oh, I have a prescription here for niacin. Now niacin is one of the B vitamins, B3. Not very important, but very, very inexpensive to make. Very inexpensive. And I, of course, have some niacin in my practice. Not expensive stuff. In fact, a nice bottle, let's say 90 niacin vitamin capsules, costs me $2.50 to $3. That's what my cost is. So she wanted to show me, so she takes out a prescription and she shows me the prescription, and my mouth hit the floor, basically. It almost really did. I almost fell on the floor. Take a guess. I just want you to take a guess. Take a minute here and try to figure out how much Medicare was paying for that one bottle of niacin. Nope. More. Nope. More. $90, okay? $90 for one little bottle of niacin. And the icing on the cake was the quality of the niacin she had wasn't nearly as good as what I had, and there were less capsules in the bottle. When I told her that I sell niacin for $6, she was, it was an awakening moment. So anyway, when we back up to the story of why the FDA was trying to make vitamins by prescription only, starting to make sense. You're going to walk into your doctor, get a prescription for vitamin C because you think it'll help your cold or something, and it's $110. Now remember, this is a good 15 years ago. This wasn't even recently. I get the idea. Anyway, let's move on. Okay. Now, a lot of times when you go into a store and it says on the label, and this is really confusing, it says natural or organic and so forth. Well, if the label says natural, does that mean that the vitamin is natural? What does that mean? Well, per the FDA, in order for you, the company, to put natural on the bottle, it has to be 10% natural. In other words, 90% of the vitamin can be synthetic and 10% is natural coming from a food source, and you can say it's natural. And organic has a similar rule. What am I telling you? Basically, I'm telling you that labels only tell a small part of the story. A small, small part. Now, one of my suggestions for when you go out and you're going to buy vitamins, a very good suggestion is when you read the label, or if you read the label on a vitamin, if you have no idea what's in that thing, it's like you need to have a PhD in biochemistry to understand what it's saying. There's a good chance that that vitamin is synthetic. If it says on the label comes from carrots or beets or wheat germ or something that you understand, you can make sense out of, then it's probably from food and it's a whole food vitamin. Not very difficult to understand. Okay? Now, let's go to another topic. I love this topic. This is called RDA, Recommended Daily Allowance. Now, what is recommended daily allowance? Well, I'm going to tell you right off. It's just total bunk. It's baloney. It's, I don't want to use other words. I don't know who's watching. So, first of all, let's start from an understandable point of view here. If you're an athlete, the amount of vitamins you need is much different than if you sit at a desk all day and you never exercise. If you smoke, your requirements are different than if you don't smoke. If you're pregnant, obviously, your requirements are different. If you're a child, if you're old, if you live in certain climates, hot, cold, near a beach, all of these things have an influence on the amount of nutrition you need. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Now, I gotta say, for a doctor to say you need 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day and that's what you need is so pompous. It's such baloney. It's beyond. It's beyond. They have no clue. They have no idea. First of all, when you're talking about synthetic vitamins, it's completely different than if you're talking about a whole food vitamin. I'll give you an example. You can take a whole food vitamin, a vitamin C that has 20 or 30 milligrams of vitamin C in it, but that vitamin C is a whole, complete vitamin C and easily absorbed by your body, and it's a million times better. You can't even compare it to 2,000 milligrams of ascorbic acid, which isn't even vitamin C. It's just a very small fraction of vitamin C. It's just a part of vitamin C. There's no comparison. So you're mixing completely apples and oranges. So the RDA requirements that you hear about, read about on the labels are just pure baloney. I'm sorry. I know it adds some confusion to the situation, but honestly, they're a joke. It's unbelievable. As I said in the first video, years and years ago, when the government decided to start doing some research on vitamins, they decided, let's do it on synthetic vitamins. Let's, it doesn't matter if they're made from, if they're natural, they're whole food vitamins, or if they're synthetic. And of course, when you get down now to an RDA situation, the recommended daily allowance, or the a minimum amount of vitamins to stay healthy, it's a total mess. It's irrelevant, honestly, because they did all the research and all the RDAs on synthetic vitamins, which aren't good for you to begin with. So where do you go with all this? Well, we're going to get into that, I think, in the last video. We're going to do one more video. At least I think it'll just be one more, because there's just so much to discuss on here. So let me ask you a question. Why even make synthetic vitamins? I mean, why? Where'd they come from? Why are they here? What is their reason to exist? Good question, right? Well, in this great country of ours, where money is the almighty, unfortunately, it comes back to money. It's just dollars and cents. Well, what do I mean? To make a synthetic vitamin, as I mentioned in the last video, is really, really, really cheap. It costs pennies. Pennies. A lot of the material that's used, these companies get for free. you know, because they're waste products. And even if they pay for some of it, it's cheap, it's junk. It's very, very, very cheap to make synthetic vitamins. And point number two, not only is it cheap, but the shelf life on it is indefinitely. I think they would outlast the McDonald's hamburger. I'm sorry, McDonald's. Synthetic vitamins basically can last indefinitely. I mean, they don't spoil. So what does that mean? Well, I don't know if I mentioned this in the past, but you basically don't want to eat things that can't spoil. That generally means it's a dead food. There's no enzymes in it, there's no coenzymes, there's no cofactors,
I like to eat apples and bananas. I like to eat apples and bananas. I like to eat apples and bananas. I like